What's up, beautiful people, to another episode of the Ricky Jones Jr. podcast, also known as your favorite Christian podcast, hosted by yours truly, Ricky Jones Jr., in which I am excited to dive into today's episode, knowing that I believe it will be freeing, beneficial, as well as eye-opening to those that have ears to hear, okay? And specifically to those that are hearing, I want it to be a dialogue, right? So if you are watching on YouTube, if you would, drop some comments in the comments section as you go through this here episode. If you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, there's probably a way for you to comment there, or you can take a swing over to YouTube and comment there, because I would love to hear your ideas, your thoughts, your conclusions, or your feelings pertaining to the subject itself, because I think it's not one that's talked about a lot. It's only really talked about when scandals come about, or when something crazy pops off, jumps off, or is in the news, and then you start hearing such conversation. However, if we take the mindset that, let's not be reactive, but let's be proactive in this thought and this mindset, then we should have better dialogue when things do happen, because things will happen largely because we're all learning and figuring out this whole Christian walk, our beliefs and everything as we live each and every day. And so I'm gonna drop some names like Kanye West, right? Like Megan Good, like Justin Bieber, like your auntie Pookie, or your Uncle Bob, or your Uncle Sam, or your auntie Karen, or Deborah, right? Whoever, whatever, or yourself, right? You know your name, you know what it is. We are all walking out our Christian lives, our lives as believers as we see fit, right? And I say that to say, we can't be so judgmental on each other and to each other, because we are all living out what we believe to do is right, or we all may find ourselves falling to certain things, or not being able to resist certain things because of where we are at that given time. Catch anybody at a specific time, be it a down time, a sad time, a weak time, a hungry time, and they know, right? Let's say cake. Cake is something that you're saying, I'm not going to eat right now, okay? And why? Because maybe you're on a diet, or you're watching your sugar levels, or the list goes on. Well, cake is something that you're not going to partake in. However, you catch somebody with their favorite cake, or you catch somebody in a time where they're like, oh man, like this is like day 32 and I am so missing cake. I've been thinking about it for 31 days. And on this day, I'm like, but then somebody slides me a cake and I eat it, right? Whatever it is, whatever it may be, you ate the cake, right? And so rather than shaming yourself, or like, oh man, just like all believers, like you can't trust them and the list goes on. No, they ate the cake that time. But at the end of the day, they're still believers. They're still Christians. I'm sure they already have guilt within themselves after eating it. So I said that to say, we as other believers, as other people of like faith, should not cast other shame, other guilt, other condemnation on them. Why? Because they already have it themselves, and then two, they're already dealing with the repercussions of what they did do, knowing that they shouldn't have done it. So we have to be loving, we have to be merciful. We love to throw out various scriptures and things like that puts us, shields us. The main one I'm thinking of right now is like, only God can judge me, right? Like people love to say that whether they believers or not believers, only God can judge me. Well, yes, that is true. That is what was said. However, we live life in society in a way that we still judge people. Like, why is it that only God can judge us or you in your time of wrong? However, when somebody else does wrong, we're quick to cast judgment. That's why, in large part, I'm not so much on social media, because I see it to be a place of judgment, of condemnation, of look at what this person's doing. I thought they were supposed to be doing that, and the list goes on, which is why at the end of the day, I'm a rock with Kanye. And I say that because I love being able to openly and honestly being able to watch like a journey of a believer. What do you mean? Well, hey, he lived a life, prior to being in the limelight. He did a docu-series, right, which talked about his mom introducing him to God and all that good stuff. And then he started living life, right, like us all. Well, I'm going to say him, then I'm going to talk about me, and I'm sure you're going to see yourself in either one of these stories. However, he started living life and was like, I'm doing this music thing, and the music thing brings the music world, right? And either you're strong enough to resist what's being brought your way, or you're susceptible and you participate because that's just what's taking place. And so so boom, he did that, and he's gone through his life, right? You see the different women that he's been with and all that good stuff. However, now he's like, boom, Jesus is Lord. I got this Christian album, did another one, right? Jesus is King, and it's like, okay, oh snap, like he making this transition. So now some of the believers are like, nah, can't do it. Kanye West, nope, can't listen to him. I already know what he did. I can't listen to him anymore. Some of us are like, oh man, he's made this transition. Some people come into contact with Kanye West on the Christian side don't even know about the other side, the late registration album, the college dropout album, and the list goes on, right? And they come in contact with him, then it's like, oh snap, look at this guy, like he's able to bring so many people together, and the list goes on. I say all that to say, but now he's where he is right now, with his ex-wife and all that good stuff, and the list goes on. Not getting into the nitty-gritty details, but just showing how it's just cool, quite honestly, if you look at it for what the beauty really is in the story that's being shown, and not necessarily trying to cast your judgments, your thoughts, or your I told you shows, or you're casting broad nets over a group of people because of a specific person. You'll get to see how life really works out as it pertains to humans that are believing in a all-knowing, all-powerful God. Why do I say it that way? Because as humans, we are here in this world that is full of confusion, corruption, and defeat, right? And so we have to navigate through life resisting things that we once were so openly a part of and not resisting at all. We have to be a part of different circles and communities of people that we once ran with that we're now like, oh snap, like, now that I'm trying to walk this good life, like the real good life, now I may not be able to run with you like I used to. I may not be able to call you and talk to you and hang out with you like I used to. But it's still hard, right? Because we still love them people. It's not so easy just to cut people off because of the relationships that we have, because of the journeys that we live life and all those good things. But then you also have to fight against the influence, right? Influence of whatever industry you're in, influence of the voices of other people, influence of culture, and the list goes on of various and other influences. And with all that being said, you get to see the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs, the highs and lows, and the things that come along with the journey. But I say that to say we should not see what other people do and say, oh man, like I knew it. Like, when I saw the whole Megan Good scenario or heard about it, I really didn't see it. I heard about it. And, with the whole divorce with her husband. And I was like, oh man, like that sucks, right? And I say it sucks largely because I don't think divorce is something that anybody should have to go through. But when they do, it sucks. I can say it's a good thing that there aren't any kids in a scenario between the two, but outside of that it sucks. But beyond it sucks, I just hope and pray for the best for the both of them, right? For the good of Megan Good and then the good of her ex-husband, right? Mr. Franklin, largely because hey, they still have a journey. They still have a walk. They still have tasks and things before them. They still have purpose in their life for them to fulfill. And my prayer, hopes, and desires is that other people don't cast their judgment on them that would then make them feel like they're less worthy of fulfilling their purpose, not being able to fulfill their destiny, or not able to have their relationship with God that ultimately God wants with us, right? And if I was to then cast that on me, I have had a crazy journey. Like I accepted Christ at the age of 7. And then I started having fun, living life, trying to fit in. And another circle, I talked about how I realized that I was living my life for the acceptance of others as opposed to living my life in the fulfillment of the purpose of why I was here. And so living life for the acceptance of others, if I was in middle school at the time, we was out here trying to get girls, right? And trying to get girlfriends, trying to see who get the most kisses, see who get the most notes. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you was back in my day, it was all about notes, and it was all about getting photos of girls who, at the time, it was a big thing, like going to the mall and taking photos with your friends and stuff. And then at the back of it, you write a note. It was all about that. Like, who could get the most? You know what I'm saying? And so much so, I had a Pokemon card book, and, it was where you could put Pokemon cards. I was in there putting photos of girls from middle school in there. I was collecting them, Pokemon, gotta catch them all. I was like, hey, when I heard another photo was taken at the mall, where's my photo? And I don't just want a photo because anybody can get a photo. I also need a message on that bad boy. And you know what I'm saying? That was a badge of honor at that time. I'm saying all that to say I was doing what was at that time cool to do. Then moving on to high school, it was all about getting girls and having sex with the girls. And so my friends was like, oh man, like what you doing? Like you not getting nobody. Like what are you doing? You behind. So I was like, oh snap, like I gotta catch up. So I live my life trying to catch up in a sense. And that led to what that led to. Went out to college, had that same mindset with the idea that, oh man, there's an abundance of women now. Like, don't settle down, do whatever you want. And so did whatever I wanted. And then it came a time where I realized, like, oh snap, like this is not what I want to do. Like for real, it's not really what I want to do. It's taxing. It's just like, it's stressful. At the end of the day, I got to remember so much information about so many different women. Like, this is just too much. And I realized I need to slow down, I need to calm down, because that's not the life that I want to live, nor is the life that I feel like I should live. Why? Because I was feeling down. I was feeling sad about doing it, because I still had that whole belief in Christianity in me at the age of 7. I was still going to church all the way up through these years with these many days in between. However, like I said, I was on my journey. I was on my walk. And I pause and say that to say somebody could have been on the outside, right? One of those women, one of those fathers could have been on the outside looking at me like, wait, he say he a Christian? He say he a believer? And he doing stuff like that? Like, ain't no way, Jack, you could miss me with that. Meanwhile, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer. I go to church such and such, and I've been going there for X amount of years. I serve on this, I serve on that. But at the same time, it's like, nah, like what you're doing doesn't correlate with what you say you believe in. But I say all that to say we all are on a journey. That's just where I was at that time. I came out of that darkness a whole lot better than what I was on the forefront in. But now I say that to say, like, I'm now able to talk about it. Not that you do things to be able to talk about it to help people in that time. However, I believe that we all have a journey. We all have, as some say, we're all building a testimony, right? That's like the simplest way to make good out of the wrong that was done. However, it is what it is. I was building my testimony in a sense where, hey, if you are going through or doing things that you know you shouldn't be doing, right? Living a life that you know you shouldn't be living, but it feels good right now, and people are telling you to be doing it right now. The culture is advising you to do it right now. You like, man, I believe there is more. Hey, holla at me, talk to me. You can email me if you need to. However, other people may be casting judgment, but remember, when time goes on, you lived a life that you are glad wasn't in the forefront or in the limelight or on TMZ, or the list goes on. However, just because your dirt isn't cast in the light doesn't mean that we should not, or we should, it means that we shouldn't be casting judgment on others. And so whether it's somebody in the limelight or somebody in your neighborhood, in your family, show love to those individuals, show love to those people, largely because they're already self-condemning themselves. And what happens with self-condemnation is that you push yourself further and further and further and further back from the true relationship that God wants to have from you, because of your view of yourself, like your self-perceived identity of self that you believe God feels about you. Well, no. Hey, at the end of the day, as the Bible says, there is therefore no condemnation for those that are in Christ Jesus. Therefore, we do not have to put a shield of shame between who we are and who God has, or who God is, and his love for us. No, that shield is torn. That shield has been broken thanks to Jesus and what he did. And so I say all that to say, our relationship with God should always be intact. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Yes, he desires for us to do good and to be good. However, the good that he desires for us to be and desires for us to do will come with our relationship, which, that's a whole fun topic that I'm even talk about in a sense on Thursday. But nonetheless, in it all, where we are today, my desire is for us to not, and that's just behavior, right? A lot of people cast judgment on people because of the behavior that they do, and some people cast judgment on people because of the activities that they do. Ricky, what do you mean by activities that they do? Well, I'm glad that you asked, okay? And I mean by that is, some people will see some believers like bouncing around, doing this for a little bit, doing that for a little bit, doing this for a little bit, doing that for a little bit. And they're looking at them like, wait a minute, like, what is it that you're doing? And what is all of this amounting to? Well, I love it. and I'm gonna tell you what it is. But I love it because I'm a part of a church, Village Youth Ministries, RTM Nation, here in Tampa, Florida. And our pastor, Pastor Brian Poe, just really talked about or taught a message talking about like having a glimpse. And long story short, it's about in our conversations and communication with God, God may just give us a glimpse of a thing, like just like, you know, a glimpse. Like you may be walking, for example, you may be walking this route, right? But you get like just a corner of an eye glimpse of something. You're like, oh snap, like what was that? And then it's gone, right? It was just like that. It was a glimpse. Well, in talking to God and hearing things from God, and the list goes on about that from God, God may give you a glimpse of something. And some people act on that glimpse, right? And some people wait till they get a little bit more information, and a little bit more information, and a little bit more, then they act on whatever it is that the glimpse initially told them. Well, hey, you have to know who you are. And even he talked about that some people just need to classify themselves as glimpse people, and other people just need to classify themselves as, hey, I act on things that I hear from God by way of a feeling, or I need more information, or I need revelation, or I need a prophecy, or the list goes on, right? Whatever it is that you need to act on whatever God has said to you, boom, that's where you are. However, some people are glimpse people. So you may see some people bouncing around from one thing to the next. And it's not because they don't have a strong relationship with God. It could be because they have so much within them that they know that they should be doing that it looks like, man, what are you doing today? Like there's this saying. We all know, well, I'm going to say we all because that's a strong statement. There's a saying that goes around that says, don't be a master of all things. A jack of all things and a master of none. Well, I actually heard on TikTok. I really need to go and find that whole saying or whatever. I'll put it at the end of this here podcast. But there's a full saying that saying comes from that we as people have just cut off at that part, right? Don't be a jack of all trades and a master of none. More than anything saying we should not live life having so many tools under our tool belt, but not being able to like conquer one task or one thing, which I get. I totally get what is being said and the idea behind that saying. However, some people use that as a way to say, oh man, like I have to stick to a specific course and this is all I could do. This is all I will be. And this is all I can accomplish. Well, no, like there may be a time, it's time in the season for everything. First and foremost, right? So there may be a time where this is what you are doing, right? You may be a painter this season in life, right? Or then it may calls for you then to become a carpenter. You may be a builder with wood, right? You may have the gift and the talents and the anointing to be able to do those things. And then you may be a salesman, right? And you're selling things. And then the list goes on, right? But then, hey, at the end of it all, you may be able to be a painter that also works with wood, that also has their own shop. And you're just able to see it all come together. What I strongly believe and do believe that whatever it is that you may be doing in a season, and then transitioning and doing it in another season, and then transitioning and doing another season, I believe that it will all come together at a time where all of it will come together. It will all make sense. You'll be able to use all of the many facets and things that you've done along the journey. Now, when will that day be? I don't know. But I do believe that that thing will come to pass. And let me just honestly make this statement. And I honestly believe it. I believe that you're able to now, right? We talked about Kanye West. We talked about Megan Good. I gave an example of myself. I use myself an example because I believe that there are so many different things that are on the inside of me for myself and my family, my wife and my kids and all to do, that you are getting a front row seat, right? Even through this podcast, you've seen us talk about how to start businesses. You've seen us talk about pursuing destiny and purpose and things like that. You see me transitioning the podcast to the Ricky Jones Jr. podcast, and the list will continue to go on. But you're getting to see the many facets of seasons of lives that a believer lives as they hear and do what God would tell for them to do. And that's a fun part of the journey of God and walking with God. It should not be stale. It shouldn't be stagnant. It shouldn't be mundane, but it should be exciting, something to look forward to, something to be excited about, something that you have to share with others. And you're like, oh man, like I wish and want it for you. However, I know, I being a believer, I know that it's a life that you can only experience when you take the step, when you take the plunge, when you go off of the glimpse, when you go off the feeling, when you go off the information of this is what I believe that God said, and whatever it is that you heard on the other end, you run with it it wholeheartedly, and you get to see the results, right? So I'm not afraid. I'm honestly not afraid. My wife's not afraid either. So we make a dynamic duo. We're not afraid to hear from God and do what we believe God has said, and then let the results be what the results are, and not being worried about what others may say about, oh man, like this is what you're doing now, but I thought you was doing that, or you said you was doing that over here, but then this is what you're doing. Like, hey, I heard to do that at a time, but now I'm here to do that. I'm here to, and it's okay, right? Don't cast judgment on people, whether it is the behaviors that they are doing or the activities that they are participating in. If it's, what I'm saying, if it's like bad behaviors, maybe you want to give them a call like, hey, what I'm saying, what you're doing is detrimental, and maybe you need to stop, or maybe you want to quit, or maybe you want to let it go, or maybe you don't want to do it no more, right? It could be one of them things. Then use the phone, right? Don't text, because they may not be able to experience your heart behind what it is you're saying. You may want to pick up the phone and give them a call. But nonetheless, in it all, with it all, we can't, ladies and gentlemen, we really can't, because there is so much in this world that needs to be done, that we should not pigeonhole or put people in a box and say that because you started in this bent that you need to finish life that way. Like, no, it just doesn't work that way, because things happens for a time and for a season. And I believe that purpose takes place due to the need and what is necessary at that time. So as your purpose continues to be made known to you, and you start executing and walking out of your purpose, you'll realize that what's needed will be given, because you're open to being yourself, right? You're open to your purpose manifesting in the way that's necessary, in the place, in the time, in the season that you're in. And don't be limited to the way as the only way, right? Only Jesus was the way, the truth, and the life. And even Jesus did things differently depending on where he was, right? There were times where he fed people and sat with them as they ate. There were times where, the lady was like, hey, I need my daughter healed. He was like, wait a minute, like I'm not here for your type, right? And she was like, oh snap, like no, like, and she talked a little bit more, and he was like, okay, I'll do it because of your faith, right? And then people felt like he should be doing things a certain way, and he was like, no, I'm not here for who you think I'm here for. I'm here for the sick, right? And so I say all that to say, be you, be true to who you are, and as you are true to who you are, you should be more open. Ultimately, is what I'm saying. You should be more open. You should be more loving. You should be more receptive to those that are out in the world that maybe you are seeing and reading about, that are going through things, falling into various temptations, or seemingly bouncing around for various things. No, love on them, encourage them, pray for them, reach out to them, encourage them, let them know that you are there for them, and that you have prayers already spoken for them. And if we all just do those things, how much more will we be open and receptive to share our stories, to be open about who we are, whose we are, and the life that we're living. And so I'm here for that. I'm here for that. I believe that I said enough that we can start conversation, we can start dialogue, and maybe, we'll see how this conversation or topic goes and flows. But nonetheless, at the end of the day, I'm here to bring it out, right? Because I think it is necessary. And on the next one, we'll talk about hearing from God, because that's a strong component and a strong piece to just open the doors to other and further possibilities. So make sure you lock back in on Thursday, and we'll have that conversation. So with that being said, subscribe if you haven't already done so. We have reached the 1,000 subscriber threshold, which I am also thankful for, and obviously we could do also many more. So click that red button, turn it from a red button to a gray button, and then tell a friend to do the same thing, and we'll keep climbing, growing, and reaching higher heights, new people, and more territories. All right, great people. So like I said, I'm gonna find that saying, and I'm gonna make sure I drop it on the back end. All right, y'all, so stay tuned. All right, so the saying went like this: a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. It was formerly intended as a compliment. The phrase means that a person is a generalist rather than a specialist, versatile and adept at many things. So it was actually a compliment, as opposed to a deterrent that we often hear it as. So fun times, good times. Now you know.